We're here on a motion to participate. Ms. Schulte is with us representing the department. Mr. Nowak is with us representing the children. Ms. McDaniel is with us representing the father, Mr. Vera. Ms. McDaniel, is that your client there with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. So Mr. Vera is also with us. Mr. Barfield is with us representing the mother, Miss Mary, who is with us. That accounts for all the parties. I have Jamie Blount and Kimberly Castor in the waiting room.
They are investigations, Judge.
Let them both in.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, that accounts for everyone. Ms. Schulte, you may proceed.
Judge, could I actually have just a brief moment in a breakout room
Sure.
with the parties just to see if there's anything that can be worked out?
Parties or attorneys?
Attorneys.
Okay. Well, this is a TFF case. My understanding is isn't this a TFF case?
No, Judge.
Okay, well, I've got that wrong on my notes then.
No,
Okay.
This is just a straight motion to participate.
Great. Okay. Okay, I'll open up a breakout room for the attorneys. We're here on a permanency hearing. Mr. Alvey's with us for the department. Ms. Nelson's with us for CASA. Mr. Harris is with us representing the children. Ms. Grant is with us representing the mother, Mrs. Lingenfelter, who is with us. And Mr. Pirtle is with us representing the father, Mr. Lingenfelter, who is with us. I have Cassie Kopic in the waiting room.
I'll need her, Your Honor.
Okay. While we're getting them in, let me just be sure I'm clear on this case was set for a jury trial that was to be heard by Mr. Judge Vanderpool. Did someone withdraw their request for a jury trial?
It did, Your Honor. We've all signed waivers of that jury trial at this point, so we're back to non-jury proceedings.
Okay, all right. And at one point, I had ordered mediation, and my notes show that mediation was begun and then recessed to reconvene at a later date. Has that ever been reconvened?
It has not been reconvened at this time, Your Honor. We're waiting. We're giving the parents as much opportunity to interact with the child as we can before we go back to that mediation. I think we'll be able to reach an agreement.
Sounds good. We've got till I showed dismissal date of December 21st, so we're not under the gun yet. So, okay. That brings me up to speed on how the case came back to us. So, all right. There's no one left in the waiting room. Mr. Alvey, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Cassie Kopic.
Okay.
He is currently placed where?
He's placed in a foster home in Center, Texas.
And is that foster home meeting all of his needs at this time?
Yes.
This child has many medical needs. This foster home is specifically ideal for this child's care.
Yes.
And the foster placement's been making sure that the child's made all of its medical appointments.
Yes.
Foster placements make sure that all of the child's medical needs are being met.
Yes.
The child's mother is Leslie Lingenfelter. The child's father is Matthew Lingenfelter.
Yeah, it's Lingenfelter.
Lingenfelter. I apologize. So they have been ordered to work services. Have they completed or primarily completed the services that they were ordered to work in that service plan?
Yes.
There are some issues that continue to occur in this case. Number one, Center, Texas is a long ways from Pampa, and the Lingenfelters still have difficulties making regular visits to them or to the child.
We've been going once a month for them to visit the child, and they have 2 days a week that they have virtual visits.
But it would be difficult for them to make more than the once a month due to cost and transportation and work and all of those issues.
Yeah, they have to have like 3 weeks in advance notice to be able to go down there. The next visit's going to be the 21st of August.
In addition, because of John's many medical issues, there's a lot of medical learning that these parents are having to learn in their once a month for 2 days visits.
Yes.
And have either you or someone from St. Francis Ministries observed any of the visits?
Yes, I took them to the visits.
And would you agree with me that there are still some concerns on how the parents handle the medical issues for this child?
Yes, I think that it's not a whole lot of time for them to observe and learn. They feel a lot more comfortable now than like the first visit, but I still think they need to observe and learn more.
So, would you agree with me that today that it would be contrary to John's general welfare to return him immediately to Leslie and Matthew?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that it may not be as safe today as it would be in the future to return John to Leslie and Matthew?
Yes.
You're asking then that the court continue the department as temporary managing conservator of the child, continue to allow us to help train and educate these parents on how to deal with John's medical issues.
Yes.
And your understanding is that this case has been extended. We have a dismissal date in December, but we're really shooting for getting this child home quicker than that.
Yes.
Thank you, Cassie. I'll pass the witness, Sean.
All right, thank you, Ms. Grant.
Cassie, the reason that the parents need 3 weeks notice is to take off work. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are they both keeping you informed of their employment and providing all the information you require?
Yes.
And are there any services that you would like to add today that you can think of that would assist these parents in becoming more familiar with taking care of John?
I don't think that there's anything additional because they're already watching YouTube and trying to learn as much as possible.
We really just need more repetition in practice. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And are they engaging with the foster parents when they're present with the child and asking appropriate questions?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so we're not asking the court to add any services today, correct?
Correct.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Pearl.
Ms. Coppedge, would you agree with me if I said that it would be safer to return the child to the parents today than it would have been before their training?
Well, yeah, because they've learned a lot since then. But since John is a primary medical needs child, he can't just be put in the home. There has to be a PMN staffing. There has to be stuff set up and put in place before he can go home. And that would need to be done. I mean, if we just dropped him in the house, I don't think that would be beneficial to them or the child.
Do you believe the parents have made advances in their knowledge of how to take care of this child?
Yeah.
And was there occurrence in this last visit where the child pulled out his NG tube and the parents remained calm and were able to handle that?
They did remain calm, yes.
Okay. I pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, see, obviously this is not a normal case. Is that correct?
Correct.
Parents are doing what they need to, but we need to give them some more time to make sure they are medically educated and prepared to have a child such as John back in their home.
Yes.
But they're doing all they can at this point. Is that correct?
Yes.
But with John's current placement, do you believe it's safe and appropriate and needs to continue?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. Pass the witness.
Okay. Anything else from anyone for Ms. Kopic? All right, then, Mr. Albee, did you have any other witnesses?
Did not, Your Honor. We rest.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Any witnesses?
I'd call Leslie Lingenfelter, Judge. Leslie, is there anything that you want the court to know today about your desires for John?
Yes, ma'am. So my desires for John is for myself is to make sure I know how to take care of him, all his medical needs, and have the proper education for him.
And you believe that you're making the appropriate amount of progress in that with our current plan, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you feel comfortable interacting with the foster family?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you asking the court today to consider you in compliance with your service plan and making progress? However, you understand he can't come home just yet today, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you. Mr. Albee, any questions?
Oh, Your Honor.
Mr. Pirtle?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Harris?
No, sir.
All right. And I'll just tell you right now, I'll find that both parents are in compliance and they're doing all they can. So, all right then, Ms. Grant, any other witnesses?
No, Judge. We rest.
Okay. Mr. Pirtle, any witnesses?
I'd like to call my client, Judge.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pirtle?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Lingenfelter, you heard everything that with the questions that were asked of Leslie just now, didn't you?
Yes.
And would you answer those same questions in the same way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Albee, anything?
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Grant?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Harris?
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Kopic? Trying to find where's to go. If you'd unmute, please.
Yes.
I had a couple of questions. I think I know the answers to these, but are there any other classes or any kind of training that locally that could be offered to the parents as far as learning about John's medical needs, or are they doing what they can doing it online?
They're doing what they can online. I haven't found anything different.
Okay. And I think I know the answer to this too, but have you not been able to find any placement closer to Amarillo that could deal with John's medical needs?
No, there's a placement request in, and they send us weekly updates. There's nobody in Region 1, so.
Okay. All right. Is John currently getting daily nursing care? Is it like
He is.
so many hours a day or week?
I believe it's 120 hours a week. He has the daily nurse care, and then he's physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy.
And when John is moved back to his parents, will they still qualify for that nursing assistance?
It probably, but it has to be, I think it's reassessed every so often. So if he qualifies, it's for a time period.
Is that coming through Medicaid rather than just directly from the Department or St. Francis?
It's through Medicaid.
Okay, so if they stay on Medicaid, I don't see any reason why assuming he qualifies. If he gets better and doesn't qualify, that's great. But if he's moved back up here to the parents and they're still on Medicaid, then if he qualifies, they'll still have that assistance for the nursing, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And he'll be on Superior as long as the case is open. So he will have that. But my understanding is when it does transfer, like when he went to the placement he's in now, it took a week for the nursing hours to start. And I guess it's also a little bit on availability from the provider.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good to know. And that's things we can start looking into way before the move to be sure that we're in place, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, then. If no one has anything else, then Mr. Harris, recommendations?
Your Honor, I just want to commend both the parents. They're doing all they can. I mean, this is a tough one, and they're taking steps on their own, which should be commended. But John's in a great spot right now. I think the parents are working well with the placement, which always helps. So I believe that placement needs to continue for now, and we'll reassess at our next hearing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ms. Nelson, Costa, have anything to add?
Your Honor, we agree with Mr. Harris. I think that everybody's doing everything that they can, and we would just like to make sure that the gap in services when he moves back is just as seamless as possible.
Sure. So. Okay. All right, then. Based on what I've heard, then I will continue the department as temporary manager conservator, continue John's current placement. I'm going to set this as a final on November 20th, 2024, but I show the dismissal date of December 21st, 2024. I can move that if I have to. We'll go ahead and keep that date just so we see we'll be getting close to the dismissal date. So let's keep that on November 20th. We can just treat it as a perm if we're not ready for a final, but that'll give us at least another month from then to see that we're getting there. So I'll see y'all back on November 20th. It will be by Zoom, just like today's hearings. So parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket to see exactly what time it will take place. Mr. Harris, I just wanted to let you know, I know you'd sent a letter. I didn't read it. I got far enough to see that the name of whoever wrote the letter had been redacted, so I figured there'd be objections to it. I have not read it, but if it's something that I need to hear at the final, whoever it was that wrote whatever they wrote, if we need to subpoena them, because I can't, as you well know, I can't just look at a letter. So
Right. Yeah. I will be sending that out anyway, but
Okay.
I just received it. They sent it at like 7 yesterday.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think everybody's doing all they can. And again, yeah, I commend the parents. You're really working hard at this, doing all you can. So, we'll reassess on November 20th. So, okay, this was our last hearing for the day. So we will stand in recess. Everybody have a good weekend.
Thank you, Judge.
Permanency hearing. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Your
Ms.
Honor.
Wiggins is with us for
Thank
the
you.
department. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the child. Mr. Jackson's with us representing the mother, Miss Hable. I don't show her in the waiting room. Mr. Jackson, were you expecting her?
Yes, sir, Judge. I was. I don't know where she's at this morning.
Okay, well, I'll watch the waiting room for her. And then we have Mr. Michelson representing the father, Mr. Armstrong, who is with us. I have Tasia McIntyre in the waiting room.
She's my worker, Judge.
Okay, we'll get her.
I am.
And how is Emberly doing in her current placement?
Emberly's doing wonderful, growing up and just thriving.
And is she currently having, is she in counseling?
She is not.
Is she currently having visitation with her father?
She is.
And how is that visitation going?
It's going wonderful.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that?
They interact well. Dad is very caring. They communicate well. Dad always brings activities for them to do, also brings her clothing items, just different things. He's just very overall a good parent in those visits.
And at the end of about a week ago, did he complete his final parenting class?
Yes, on 7/17.
And was that the last service that he needed to complete?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in regards to the mother, is she visiting the child?
She is not at this time.
Have you had any recent contact with the mother?
I have not.
And when was the last time you did have contact with the mother?
When I asked her to do a drug screen about a month ago.
And did she comply with that drug screen?
She did not because she said she would be dirty.
Did she indicate what she would be dirty for?
Marijuana.
Now, in regards to her history, has she completed any of her services?
Not at this time.
And in regards to her living situation, do we know where she's currently residing?
Nobody has any contact with her, so we're all unsure where she's even located at this time.
Now, in regards to reunification, family reunification is still the goal, is that correct?
That's correct.
And in regards to reunification, the department is looking towards Mr. Armstrong, is that correct?
That's correct.
And in regards to that start of reunification, are we asking that are we informing the court that we are moving to unsupervised visitation at this point?
Absolutely.
And in regards to our concerns, do we have any concerns regarding Ms. Hable returning to Mr. Armstrong's home?
There's a lot of concerns regarding Miss Hable at this time because she's very unstable. So there are some concerns with her.
Are we asking that? I mean, Mr. Armstrong has voiced that he is not going to allow Ms. Hable back in the home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And would we ask the court to order that the child have no contact with Ms. Hable until she completes or is clean for a UA and hair follicle drug screen?
Yes, ma'am.
And that would include her having any contact with the child when she's in Mr. Armstrong's care.
That is correct.
And if obviously that were to happen, then we would cease unsupervised visitation.
That's correct.
Are we also, I guess, does Miss Hable, do we know if she has access to Mr. Armstrong's home?
I spoke with Tyler this morning and he said she does not have a key to his home or any access to it without him letting her in. So there is no access to his home.
Okay, and does he understand that he cannot let her in the home and that would jeopardize the reunification?
Yes, we spoke this morning and he completely understood on that factor.
Okay. Do you believe, however, while we're transitioning, do you believe it would be a danger to the child's welfare to be placed immediately into the home of Mr. Armstrong?
I do.
Do you believe it would be in her best interest to start the reunification process gradual over time since she hasn't been in the home for over 6 months?
Absolutely, because he's doing everything right. And I think it needs to be a slow process for the child.
Right. Do you believe it would be a continuing danger for the child to be returned to mom?
Absolutely.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, I had received communication from my client back on July the 22nd, where she was trying to get into a rehab facility, and they weren't admitting her to that because they had concerns about her swallowing. Were you aware of that?
I was not. The last communication I had with her was July 8th. She's also been trying, Tyler would have more information on this, but she's been trying to get into Centacor for months, and there's been one thing after another, and she was doing the outpatient program and then dropped out of that as well.
Yes, ma'am. And it's the case that she's having difficulties because she's severe diabetic. Isn't that the case?
She is severe diabetic.
Okay. All right. And you said the last time that you'd had communications with her was about a month ago?
July 8th. I just looked.
July 8th. Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Michelson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tasia, you testified earlier he's completed all of his services?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything that he needs to complete as far as moving towards reunification?
No, sir. Just keep on the right track. I've told him multiple times as well as this morning. I'm proud of him for working hard and doing the right thing. So he is on top of all of his services.
Okay. Do you foresee overnight visits in the near future?
Oh, absolutely. He's on the right track, like I said.
Okay. I know that's his big concern. The other concern that he has is he's concerned about Emberly starting school and then having to transition out of that school to a new school with her being in the custody of her father. How do you plan to address that?
Work with my supervisor and director and get Emberly home in the correct amount of time. Like I said, he's doing well. He's doing the right things. Our only concern right now is Miss Hable coming back around, but Tyler's doing the right thing and doing a good job. So we will work with him on getting Emberly home.
Okay. Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
Tasia, since Emberly's placed with her grandmother in Dumas, what is the plan for the logistics of the dad's unsupervised visits?
We haven't fully talked through that, but we will transport her to Amarillo. Grandma will help transport just like we've done with the visits. The visits have been every other week, one in Amarillo, then Dumas. So there has been transportation this time. So we'll discuss between grandparents, between us, and make a good plan.
Okay, and we were also informed that the dad had started working nights. So are you aware of that? And if so, how's that going to affect any overnight visitation?
We are aware of that. And I spoke with Tyler this morning and I told him as long as he get me his work schedule, we'd work around that. We'd work on that. He also gave me information of his mom and then a babysitter that he's lined up and things like that for childcare.
Okay, thank you. Pass witness.
All right. So Tasia, you can check on those people that just your normal background check so that we will know when Emberly comes home, they're approved to do the babysitting.
Absolutely. I have told Tyler to get me all their information. I'll run those background checks so we can get them 100% cleared.
Okay. And would she be starting kindergarten at 5?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Does anyone have further questions for Ms. McIntyre?
No, Your Honor.
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Wiggins, anything further from the department?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson, anything further?
No, sir.
All right. For the record, I've been watching the waiting room and Ms. Hable never appeared. So, all right, Mr. Michelson, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Ingram, recommendations.
Yes, sir. Continue department as temporary managing conservatorship and continue placement with grandmother. No objection to the unsupervised visits. Emberly's doing well in placement, but sounds like dad's doing well also. So,
yeah, well, I agree. Mr. Armstrong, I commend you on what all you've done and how quickly you've got it done. Hopefully we can get Emberly back to you, maybe even possibly before school starts if we could do that. So, okay, I will continue department as temporary manager conservator, continue Emberly's current placement, knowing that we're working towards reunification as quickly as possible. I'll order no contact between Ms. Hable and Emberly until she provides both a negative hair strand and UA drug screen. And then if that happens, any visitation would be supervised. All right, I'll set a final in this case for September 30th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 30th to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. And if something comes up and we can start, if everybody's ready to start a monitored return, you can notify our office and we'll move it up and get that going. So otherwise, we'll stand in recess. Mr. Armstrong, again, I commend you for all you've done. We'll stand in recess. Everybody have a good week. What was scheduled for a final hearing. Court's aware that the department has requested an extension. Ms. Wiggins, if you'll just tell me briefly the reason for the extension.
We just now have started, and Ms. McIntyre will have to tell me exactly where we are in the reunification, but we are in the process of reunification with the father. And so if the child is back in the home, it's been a very, very short period of time. And so we never like to get out once we give a kiddo back to the parent, just so we can make sure that everything goes according to plan. So that's really in essence what the request is for. Additionally, we would like to still continue to offer Ms. Hable some services as well.
All right. And from what I read, you wanted a permanency hearing. If the court extends it, then you wanted a permanency in 2 months.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we don't want to have to go the whole 6 months, obviously, if we don't have to. And so I think giving us the 2 months, I think, would be a good idea.
All right, then. All right, let me just ask the attorneys, does anybody object to the extension?
No objection.
Okay. Mr. Michelson?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr.
No
Ingram? All right. All right, then I will grant the department's motion to extend the case. I will extend the case and retain the case on the court's docket. Okay, let's see. We have Ms. McIntyre in. I don't have anybody in the waiting room, so Ms. Wiggins, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I call Ms. McIntyre.
That is correct.
And how is she currently? And I guess explain to me where she is right now. I know we were doing reunification, so I don't know exactly where we are in the process.
Yes, ma'am. We were unified with Tyler, the father, on September 16th. I actually went and saw Emberly the other day with her dad. I've never seen this kid so happy, running around, just a kid, loving life. Tyler has set up a great bedroom for her, and so she is doing well at this time.
Okay, great. So she's been in the home about for 2 weeks.
That's correct.
Okay. And is she, because she had to transfer schools, is that correct?
That's correct.
And is she doing okay with that transfer?
Yeah, she was telling me she actually was about to do a color run at school, so she was excited and wearing her shirt when I was there.
Great. And in regards to any services, are we needing, I guess Mr. Armstrong obviously completed his services, but does he need anything additional help in regards to Emberly in the home at this time?
Tyler does not. He's doing well, and we're pretty proud of him for getting everything done and then supplying a great home for her.
Okay. Now, in regards to Ms. Hable, are we still offering her services?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And is she having visitation with the child?
She is not, since they were suspended with the court.
Okay. And do you remember what the court conditions were for the suspension to be taken off?
She needed to pass a UA and hair follicle.
Okay. When was the last time that she tested for the department?
The last time she tested for the department was a hair follicle on 4/8. I've tested her every month since on hair follicle and UAs, and she's failed to test or failed to appear as directed.
Okay. And so are we asking, I guess, today if she will go to or be ordered to do a hair follicle and UA?
Absolutely. I tried last week, and she was headed to Serenity and then checked herself out within 1 day of admitting into Serenity.
Okay. And so the services that the department's attempting to get Ms. Hable to engage in are drug treatment focused.
That's correct.
All right. All right. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Ms. McIntyre, the report I read said that Ms. Hable had a pending hair and UA. The results were pending from a hair and UA on September 12th. Is that not correct?
It was pending because I did my report the day that I sent her, and so I was putting pending, but she failed to appear as directed. I did double check that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, then, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Ma'am, if I was looking at your report here, we'll strike that. First of all, you have Alexis's current contact information. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how recently have you been in contact with her?
This morning.
Okay. And I was looking at the report that was submitted, and initially she was to go to an inpatient, but it's my understanding that you guys will be fine with her completing an outpatient program. Is that still your position?
So OSAR wanted her to complete an inpatient, and she couldn't find an inpatient. Actually, she tried Serenity, checked herself out. She found an out of patient in Amarillo that she said would be able, they had doctors on site, would ever be able to help her with her healthcare and stuff. She never went to that, never got accepted to that. And then recently she tried Serenity again. So it's kind of been back and forth, a juggle. We just want her to get help in her drug addiction.
Yes, ma'am. But my question to you is the department still okay with her getting into an inpatient program? I'm sorry, an outpatient program.
Judge Graham ordered in a previous hearing, he was okay with outpatient. So,
okay. And in fairness to her, Alexa's condition, in addition to the addiction that she has, she's a severe diabetic. Is that correct?
I can't attest to that. She's not ever given me medical documentation after multiple requests.
Okay. All right. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Michelson.
Thank you. Based on the positive report from the permanency report and Tasha McIntyre's statements, I have no questions.
All right. Mr. Ingram, any witnesses? Any questions?
No questions.
All right. Ms. Wiggins, anything further from the department?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Jackson, any witnesses?
No, sir.
Mr. Michelson.
No witnesses.
All right. Mr. Ingram, recommendations?
Continue department as temporary managing conservator, continue placement with the father.
Okay. All right, then. I will continue. First of all, as I've said, I grant the department's motion to extend the case and retain the case on the court's docket. I'll continue the department as temporary managing conservator. Let me ask, I guess it could be whoever, is the child just placed with father, or are we under a formal monitored return, or just a placement?
Just a placement, Judge.
All
We're
right.
not asking for a formal monitored return.
All right, then I will continue the current placement with the father. I'll order Ms. Hable to hair and UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today. I'm going to order that Ms. Hable's visitation continue to be suspended until she provides a negative hair and UA drug screen, and additionally begins working some kind of drug treatment program. I don't recall that I said that the outpatient was okay. I may have, but in reading the report, I kind of read the report to say that she had asked for inpatient, but then when she checked herself out, whoever said they would be fine with an outpatient program. So I'm just going to say my order is just that her visitation will continue to be suspended until she starts some type of drug treatment program, inpatient, outpatient, whichever. Okay, as requested, I'll set the next permanency hearing for December 2nd, 2024. It will be.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We did just set the McClendon final. And so I was looking at how much time we had on December 2nd. Can we push this hearing to December 7th or 9th?
I can do that, but I've told Brittany to give McClendon a full day.
Hey, Courtney, I reached out to Amy because she said that, or I told her we needed to get a full day on that one. And the rest of December looks really chaotic with the holidays. So that's why I was wanting this one to go on the 2nd if we could.
Absolutely. Yes. I don't want to. Yeah, no, I don't want to mess with that, Judge. I was just trying to fit McClendon in on the day that I thought it was. So
I knew this morning McClendon was going to be a full day.
I completely understand and do not disagree. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll see y'all back on December 2nd. That will conclude this hearing. And is it my understanding, Ms. Wiggins?
We're here on an initial permanency hearing.
Is agreed.
Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the children. Mr. Jackson's with us representing the mother, Ms. Shadbolt. I assume that's your client with you, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Fee, the alleged father, is not with us, and he's not in the waiting room. I have Michelle Silva in the waiting room.
She's my worker, Judge.
All right, we'll get her in. Ms. Wiggins.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Silva, is it currently true that Mr. Fee is in the Potter County Jail?
Yes.
And how long has he been in jail?
He has been in there a couple weeks.
And Judge, just for the court's record, we did send over a paternity test order. That way we can get him tested now that we know where he is located.
Good, thank you.
Ms. Silva, has Mr. Fee communicated with the department at all prior to him going to jail?
No, he hasn't.
And in regards to the child, where is the child currently placed?
They are placed in a home in Amarillo, Texas.
And how are they doing in that placement?
They are doing really well in the placement.
Now, in regards to Miss Shadbolt, how is she coming along on her services?
She's done really well. She has completed a couple parenting classes. She has done counseling services. She did a couple with the Jennings Family Counseling Services. She did a couple counseling sessions in Serenity. And she had irrational behavior. She completed that with Troy Timmons. And she right now is working on domestic violence classes.
Okay. And right now, what is her current visitation?
She gets 2 hours a week every week.
And has she been drug screening for the department?
Yes.
Are we asking for any drug screens today?
No.
And in regards to Serenity, did she complete the inpatient treatment program?
She did.
When was she released from that program?
She went in on around June 6th and completed it on July 2nd.
Okay, so that was a recent release from Serenity, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in regards to Ms. Shadbolt, do we have some concerns? She has some current pending criminal cases, is that correct?
Yes.
And one of those cases is a motion to proceed in Randall County, is that correct?
Yes.
And is it your understanding that the judge will make a determination about that next month?
Yes.
And because of that, is the department concerned if we increase visitation and then she is sentenced to prison, that the children won't have that consistency?
Yes.
Okay. And are we just requesting that we will increase visitation depending upon the outcome of that hearing?
Yes.
Do you believe it'd be contrary to the welfare of the children to be returned today?
Yes.
And do you believe it'd be continuing a danger to be returned today?
Yes.
Is it a fair statement to say that we would like to see some more stability for drug screening since she just was released from inpatient treatment and that she continue with her services?
Yes.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you. Ms. Silva, y'all were talking about, I showed mother's first name is Jerica, and y'all were talking about Serenity? Or what, there was another name used.
It's Serenity. It is it's kind of like Senecor.
It's the drug treatment program, Judge.
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about mother's name. Is it Jerica is the first name? Do I have that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, I knew what Serenity was, but I thought I heard it in a different text. So, all right, then, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Ma'am, in addition to the services that Jerica's working, has she been compliant with the department?
Very.
Okay, it's maintained contact with you.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that she's currently employed. Is that correct?
She is.
Okay, and she's also recently got in some new housing. Have you been able to see that housing?
Not yet. She just recently got the home.
Okay. Did she provide you with a contract?
No, not yet.
Okay. And I take it that you're wanting to look at that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
We were told that placement was giving notice on the children. Have you been able to confirm that, or where does that
That's
stand?
correct.
Okay. So, do we have any information on where they're going to be placed?
Not yet. Mm-mm.
Do you know when the notice is up?
It is up on the 15th of August.
Okay. That's witness.
Ms. Silva, was there some reason given for notice?
They closed their home.
Oh, okay. All right. No problem.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. I do have a couple more questions for her, if you don't mind.
Okay. So there's no problem with the kiddos and placement. It's just that they're getting out of the business.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Ma'am, has Jerica provided you with the name of somebody that she would prefer to have the kids placed with?
Yes.
And is there a current home study going on for that person?
The person signed the release on Friday, and so that will be completed to send it out this week.
All right. And when do you anticipate that being finalized?
I have to send it out, and I think it's about 10 days for them to do that.
Hopefully we can have this wrapped up before the 15th.
Well, she also has to move into her home. She hasn't moved in yet.
Okay. Okay. All right. No further questions.
Okay. All All right, thank you. Okay, then, anything further from, the department?
No, we just ask that you make all the additional findings.
Okay, I'll make all the findings that I typically do about reasonable efforts being made by the department. All right, then, Mr. Jackson, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ingram, recommendations?
Continue department temporary managing conservator, continue placement that they're currently in. I don't have any concerns about that placement. Kids are doing well in placement. I hate that they're going to have to be moved. I don't anticipate a home study is going to be completed before the 15th, but
I doubt it. We can try though.
we'll just have to see.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator, continue their current placements, knowing we have to find another one by August 15th. So I will order an expedited home study on Nevaeh Griego. Maybe that'll help. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I'll set our next review hearing for November 18th, 2024. That will be by Zoom, just like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys. Ms. Gutierrez is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us for the child. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the father. He is just now come into the waiting room. Carbajal, I'll get him in. And Ms. Grant is with us representing the mother, Ms. Felder. She's not in my waiting room. The only one in my waiting room is Tamara Martinez.
That is my caseworker, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll get her in. All right, this case was set for 10 o'clock, now 10:02. We will proceed in Ms. Felder's absence.
Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted to just briefly raise a procedural issue with the court. I do not see an order adjudicating, an order appointing Ms. Grant as Ms. Felder's attorney. If I've missed it, forgive me, please, but I'm in the clerk's file and I don't see it, Your Honor. And we're not opposed to Ms. Grant being appointed. I want to clear that up, but I don't see an order for it.
Okay, hey, you can look for it, and if you don't find one, we'll go ahead and sign one if we haven't.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
And the department calls Tamara Martinez as its witness. Ms. Martinez, did you prepare a court report for this case and have it filed on July 17th of 2024?
Yes, I did.
Your Honor, we ask that the court take judicial notice of that court report.
All right, so noted, and I have read the report, so we don't have to cover everything in it.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Now, Tamara, since the filing of the court report, are there any updates regarding Ziari, the child?
No, there's not.
And does he remain placed with his relative?
Yes, he does.
And is that his paternal grandmother?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Now, in regards to visitation, that was stopped at the last hearing, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's conditioned to restart on if a parent provides a clean urinalysis drug screen and a clean hair follicle drug screen, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And to aid with that, have we continued to ask the parents to drug screen?
Yes, we have.
And did the mother, Tanika Felder, drug screen during the month of May?
Yes, she did.
And was her urinalysis clean?
I believe it was positive.
Okay. And was her hair follicle positive as well?
Yes.
And does the department concerned for her cocaine use continue?
Yes.
And in regards to Mr. Carbajal, did he comply with drug screening in May as well?
Yes, he did.
And how were his results?
I believe they were positive as well.
Okay.
But I'm pulling them up. His hair in May was positive as well.
Okay.
Ms. Martinez, for the record, both mother and father, they were positive for cocaine and marijuana. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ms.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Tamara, did Dad urinalysis drug screen for the department as well in May?
I don't have that in my court report, so I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. How is the mother, Tanika Felder, doing on her services?
To my knowledge, she's not working her services.
Okay. And Mr. Carbajal, how is he progressing on his services?
I received his RBT certificate last week, so he's completed that. I was able to confirm this morning that he completed his psychosocial evaluation with Jennings Counseling. And he's recently moved to Midland. He's requesting to work services there, so we are going to get him set up with a courtesy worker.
As far as the psychosocial evaluation with Jennings, were you able to receive a copy of that yet?
Yes, I received it just this morning.
And are there any recommendations made in that psychosocial for additional services?
Not for additional ones.
So am I correct then that there's nothing in the psychosocial that we need to ask to be ordered?
That's correct.
Are we asking for drug screens today?
Yes.
Urinalysis drug screens for both parents only, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you tell us what efforts you have made to locate Ms. Felder?
I've looked on Facebook, I've done jail searches. I've tried a previous phone number that we had for her.
And has St. Francis been able to locate Ms. Felder since the last hearing?
We haven't been able to locate her since, I believe, June.
And in regards to connecting her with services, since the last hearing, what attempts have we made to connect her with services?
She had a parent support worker for the first 90 days that attempted to get her set up with services. And we continue to try to locate her so we can assist her with services.
Thank you, Tamara. Is there anything else you think we need to share with the court today?
No.
I pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Ms. Martinez, would it be a danger to the physical health and safety of the child to be returned to either parent today?
Yes.
Would it be contrary to the child's welfare to be returned to either parent today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Grant?
I have no questions, Your Honor. I was recently assigned since I've had Ms. Felder before. It's possible that the assignment sheet has not made it through the district clerk process yet, but I did get emails from Ms. Morrow giving me the information just for the court's records.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Ms. Kincaid, questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. You said Mr. Carbajal recently relocated to Midland. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And was that for work?
Yes, ma'am.
And maintaining employment is a part of his service plan. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that would be in compliance with the service plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has he provided you any pay stubs yet?
Not yet.
Okay. But that's something that you would be wanting to see to demonstrate he's complying with the services.
Yes, ma'am.
And has he, don't say it on here, but has he provided you his address there in that area?
Yes, ma'am. He has.
Okay. So a courtesy worker can go by to observe the home.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram, questions?
No questions.
All right, Ms. Gutierrez, anything further from Ms. Martinez?
No, Your Honor, no further questions for this witness.
Any other witnesses?
Yes, the department calls Isaiah Carbajal as its witness.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carbajal, you understand that the main issues for the department are drug use and domestic violence. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was your last date of use for cocaine?
I want to say Father's Day weekend.
Of 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what steps are you taking at this point towards your sobriety?
Just staying busy. I moved out of Amarillo, started over. That's basically just a fresh start.
Okay. Has anybody talked to you about doing a substance abuse assessment?
Not that I can remember, no.
Okay. If the court has already ordered that, will you complete that?
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
All right, and just don't let me forget, when we finish, I'll put Mr. Carbajal and Ms. Martinez in a breakout room. They can discuss what he needs to do for that. So, okay, then, Ms. Grant, any questions for Mr. Carbajal?
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Kincaid?
No questions, Your Honor. Mr. Carbajal, whenever you get a chance after this, can you give my office a call?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ingram, any questions?
No questions.
Ms. Kincaid, at the conclusion of this hearing, do you want to go into the breakout room with Mr. Carbajal and Ms. Martinez?
That would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, Ms. Gutierrez, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the department rests. I do request findings of reasonable efforts to reunify the family, attempting to locate the parents, communicating the parents, connecting the parents with court-ordered services, and drug screening. And let me check one more thing, Your Honor. Let me see here. We also ask for a finding of reasonable efforts for the concurrent goal of family or fictive kin adoption, and that would be if the parents cannot reunify with the child, that we have placed the child in a potentially adoptive home with a relative.
All right, I will make those findings requested.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Grant, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor. I'll continue to look for Ms. Felder, and if I locate her, I would suggest that this case might be ripe for mediation to move it along.
Okay, I agree with you. All right, Ms. Kincaid, do you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, I rest.
All right, Mr. Ingram, recommendations?
Continue department's temporary managing and servitor, continue placement with the paternal grandmother. Child's doing well in that placement.
Okay. Okay, then I will continue the department's temporary managed conservator, continue Ziari's current placement. I'll order the parents to UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today. And I don't know when Mr. Carbajal relocated, but Ms. Martinez, y'all can discuss where he does that when you're in your breakout room. And I will order mediation in this case if mother is located. Okay, our next hearing will be on November 18th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance. Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram is with us representing the child. Mr. Nowak is with us representing the mother. I don't show her in the waiting room. Mr. Nowak, were you expecting her?
I just talked to her 30 minutes ago, Judge, and I talked to her last week. I am expecting her. Yes, sir.
Okay. I have someone, I don't recognize this name. I've got Shay Grant, which I know who she is. I've got a Linda Sturgeon in the waiting room. Do we know who that is?
Judge, that's the placement, and I suspect Miley is with her because she wanted to sit in on the hearing.
Okay. All right. Then I'll get both of them in. Mr. Nowak, I'll watch the waiting room. If I see her come in, I'll interrupt and we'll get her in immediately.
Thank you, Judge.
And I believe I don't know if I announced it. Mr. Dockery is also with us.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Grant. Are you the worker for Miley?
Yes, I am.
And where is she currently placed?
She's here in Amarillo with paternal grandparents.
And how is she doing in that placement?
She's doing well. They are meeting all her needs and everything's going great.
Great. Now, in regards to the father, when was the last time you talked to Mr. Dockery?
Last week.
And is he currently out of state?
Yes.
And has he been able to work any services since going out of state?
He did start parenting classes with Fatherhood Fire.
Okay.
And that's been it.
And in regards to your conversation with him, when was the last time you spoke with him previous to last week?
It's been I think sometime in June.
Okay. So there was a gap of time that you hadn't had communication with him.
Yes.
Now, in regards to the mother, when was the last time you spoke with the mother?
Earlier this month.
And in regards to the mom, did she complete a UA drug screen?
She did.
Did she fail to complete a hair follicle?
Yes.
And are we asking that a hair follicle be ordered?
Yes.
And as per the last court order, it was ordered that the visitation would be stopped, or it would be at the direction of Miley's counselor, and mom must provide a UA and hair follicle drug screen. Just provide one. Is that correct?
Yes.
And since that report in April, she has failed to do so. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in regards to the long-term goal for Miley, is that the department's intent to ask the court to order Miley's PMC to the grandparents and the parents to stay on as possessory?
Yes.
And have you spoken with placement about this?
I have.
And are they agreeable to this situation?
Yes, they are.
And is it fair to say that Miley's agreeable to this as well?
Yes.
Have you been able to talk to the father about this?
Yes, I have.
And what was his conclusion? What did he say to that?
He is in agreement with that as well.
Okay. Have you talked to the mom about this agreement?
Yes.
And what was her response?
Ms. Castro agrees as well.
And Judge, we are for procedural. We were not, Mr. Dockery doesn't have an attorney, and so I was not able to communicate with him, but we wanted to have this hearing just to get everybody's agreement that we modify the petition to add in the grandparents so we can make them permanent managing conservators at the end of the case.
Okay. All right. Any objections to that from anybody?
No. No objection.
No.
Okay, then I will grant the department's motion to add the paternal grandparents as parties to the suit.
Ms. Grant, do you believe it would be contrary to the child's welfare to be returned to her parents today?
Yes.
And are we asking for any drug screens for Mr. Dockery? If we're able to pay for them?
Yeah, we are. I've been able to set it up before.
Okay. And are we wanting a UA?
Yes.
And how long does it usually take to set those up?
I can get it today.
Okay. All right. Anything else that the judge needs to be aware of at this time?
No.
right, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, where does Mr. Dockery, where is he living?
In
I
Oregon.
live in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay, and Ms. Grant, have you, if y'all need to go in a breakout room when we're through so we can figure out how to get him drug tested, that's fine if you need to, or if you already know, that's good too, so.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then, Mr. Nowak, questions?
No questions, Judge.
All right. Mr. Dockery, do you have any questions for Ms. Grant?
No, Your Honor. I did have a question for you though.
What's that?
Child support took away my driver's license, and I am really needing to get it reinstated in any possible way. You could tell me how to get that done?
I wouldn't have a clue in Oregon. I wouldn't really have a clue in Texas either. Number one, I can't give any kind of legal advice, but I wouldn't have a clue. I've been doing this job for 13 years, so I'm pretty much worthless about any other kind of law.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Docker, you did hear this, what Ms. Grant testified to, that are you in agreement when we get this case concluded that the paternal grandparents be named conservators and then you and the mother be named possessory conservators?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I don't know if I couldn't tell from my notes. I don't know if I admonished you before about your right to an attorney if you can't afford one. Have I told you about that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that still remains. If you change your mind and want an attorney, you just contact our office or Miss Grant or anyone with St. Francis, and they'll get you the paperwork to fill out to get back to me.
Okay, I have it.
Thanks, sir. All right. Then Mr. Ingram, if you got no witnesses, then recommendations.
Yes, sir. Continue department, temporary managing conservator, continue placement as is. And I just like to say on behalf of Miley and that proud of progress she has made. She is head and shoulders above where she is today, doing the best she has since this case has started. And I'm just proud of the progress she's made.
Yeah, I want to say the same thing, Miley. I read the report. I read where you've been accepted to the cosmetology program next year at school and that you've got a summer job. Sounds like things are going great. Is there anything you need to tell me today, Miley?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, well, we're all proud of you. Are you on any kind of medications, Miley?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, then I will continue the department. First of all, I will grant the department's motion to add Linda and David Sturgeon as parties to the lawsuit so that we can facilitate the final based on what I've heard today. I will continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue Miley's current placement, and I'll order Mr. Dockery to UA drug screen when that's possible for the department to pay for it. Ms. Grant, do you need a breakout room with Mr. Dockery to discuss that?
No, sir.
Okay, y'all can work it out then.
And Judge, are you ordering mom to UA? I mean, to hair follicle? I'm sorry.
I forgot. Yeah. I'll order Miss. Is she, as far as, do we know where she's at?
I believe she's still in Amarillo, but Miss Grant.
Then I will order Miss Castro to hair strand drug screen by 4 p.m. today at Care Express in Amarillo. Okay, I'll set a final in this case for September 30th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearings, so parties and attorneys can go on a court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 30th to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. So, all right. Miley, thanks for joining us. You're welcome to join us anytime you want. Just let either Miss Grant or Mr. Ingram know, and we'll be sure that you can attend these hearings. We're here today on the final hearing. Okay. Y'all have a good week. We'll stand in recess till 11 o'clock. Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the child. Mr. Taylor is with us representing the mother, Miss Oakley. She's not in my waiting room. Mr. Taylor, were you expecting her?
I do not know, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien is not in the waiting room, nor is Miss Archer might be. There's a phone line in here, and I think it seems to me that might be her. I'm going to bring the phone number in, see who it is.
And that might be my officer, Judge.
Okay, Miss Brown is with us, and Miss Wiggins, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Judge. We call Officer Andrew
Miss
Cole.
Wiggins.
Thank you, Judge. Officer Cole, how are you currently employed?
I work for the Amarillo Police Department.
And are you a certified police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you working in that capacity on July 13th of 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that night, were you dispatched to a location about 1:30 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And why were you dispatched to that location?
We were dispatched to a physical fight.
Okay, when you arrived, who did you make contact with?
I spoke with Stacy.
Okay, and did she indicate whether or not she was involved in the reason for the call out?
Yes, ma'am, she was.
And how did she appear at that time when you were talking to her?
I believe that she was crying. She was physically upset, and I observed her to have blood running down her leg.
And was the assault that you were dispatched to happen in close proximity to when you arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you feel that she was under the excitement of the event still?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you indicated that she had blood running down her leg. Did she indicate how that happened?
Yes, ma'am. She told me that she was kicked in the stomach.
Did she mention whether or not she was pregnant at the time?
Yes, ma'am. She told me that she was approximately 1 month pregnant.
And did she indicate who had assaulted her?
Yes, ma'am. She stated that it was Devin.
Okay, did she give a last name?
Yes, ma'am. She stated it was O'Brien.
And did she indicate if he assaulted her in any other way that night?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she state?
When AMS arrived, she made statements to them that Devin had sex with her.
And did that happen on the same night and the same current or same time of events that he had assaulted her by kicking her in the stomach?
Yes, ma'am.
And in regards to the case, did she indicate where they were living or if they were residing together?
Yes, ma'am. She stated that they were living in a tent in an empty field.
And was that up in Potter County?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time, did that location appear suitable for any type of child that could live in that situation?
No, ma'am.
Now, in regards to the situation, was there an arrest made that night?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was arrested?
Devin O'Brien was arrested.
And what was he arrested for?
He was arrested for assault on a pregnant person.
Now, did he communicate with you at all during that night?
Yes, ma'am. Very briefly.
Okay. What did he state to you?
When I arrested him, he told me that he did not assault Stacy.
And based on the information you received from Stacy and the physical condition that she was in, did you believe that an assault had occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you believe for her safety and the safety of others that it was necessary to arrest him that night?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Officer Cole, did Stacy have a last name?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
Can I review my report? I
Sure.
did not read that a minute ago. Christopher.
Stacy Christopher.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, then, Mr. Taylor, questions?
No question, Johnny.
All right, Ms. Archer?
No questions.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right, anything further of Officer Cole?
No, Your Honor. We ask that he be excused.
All right, if there's no objections, then Officer Cole, I'll go ahead and remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business. Thank you for your testimony and thank you for your service.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Wiggins, your next witness?
Thank you, Judge. I call Detective Raphael Quillis. I think I've been told how to say it, and I don't remember how to say it. Thank you, Judge. Officer, how are you currently employed?
I'm employed with the city of Amarillo.
And how long have you worked for the city of Amarillo?
About 15 and a half years.
And do you work as a law enforcement officer for the city?
I am, yes, ma'am.
And are you a certified police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
And what division are you currently with?
I'm currently assigned to the detective division with the special victims unit.
And before that, were you assigned to a different unit in July of 2023?
No, ma'am. I
Okay.
was with the special victims unit as well in detectives.
Okay, thank you. And so on July 13th of 2023, did you receive an assignment for a case involving a victim, Stacy Christopher?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you first do as part of the investigation?
I made some attempts to try to get in touch with Miss Stacy, but unsuccessfully. I don't believe she has a working phone, and the shelters didn't have record of her and a way to contact her. And then I was able to make contact with Devin while he was at Potter County.
Now, did you talk to, just to clarify, was that Devin O'Brien?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you talk to him about his living situation currently, obviously before he was arrested?
Yes, ma'am, briefly.
And what did he indicate to you?
He had indicated to me that he and Stacy were living in a tent. They're essentially homeless. And he kind of explained to me the area they were in off of I-40. And I believe it was near Quarter Horse or Nelson. Right in that area, there's a field that he was kind of staying in, or they were staying in.
And based on his description, did it appear that it would have been safe for a child to reside in that location?
I would not believe so, no, ma'am.
Okay. Now, in regards to the investigation, he was currently arrested for assault of a pregnant person. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he denied those allegations. Is that right?
He did.
Now, in regards to the incident, he did confirm though that she was pregnant at the time or that night. Is that correct?
He did. He believed that to be true, that she was pregnant.
And did he give any statements about their relationship?
He said they had a kind of a rough relationship, that she would, go around town. And then there was I think it was an ex-boyfriend or an ex-friend of hers that he would, or she would go with, and kind of go panhandle and things like that. And that kind of upset Devin and caused some problems between their relationship.
Okay. But he did confirm that he was in a dating relationship with her for about 6 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in regards to Mr. O'Brien, did he indicate whether or not he was working at the time?
I don't remember.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Taylor?
No question.
Ms. Archer?
No questions.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right, then can he be excused, Ms. Wiggins?
I have no objection, Judge.
No objection.
All right. Officer, thank you for your testimony and thank you for your service. I'll release you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Thank you very much, Judge. Y'all have a good afternoon.
You too.
Thank you, Judge. I called Nicholas Grant.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Officer Grant, how are you currently employed?
I'm a patrol deputy with the Randall County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you worked for the Randall County Sheriff's Office?
6 years.
And are you a certified police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
And on July 13th of 2023, were you working as a corporal for patrol?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you assigned to or dispatched to a location around 5 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
And what location were you dispatched to?
The 400 block of Southeast 58th, roughly space 15.
Okay, thank you. And can you describe, I guess, that location? You said space 15. What does that mean?
It's a trailer park with about 2 or 3 rows, and they're labeled simply 1 through how many are there. So this one we're dispatched to the area of space 15, which would have been trailer 15.
Okay. And when you arrived at that location, what was the purpose of your visit to that location?
We had a report of a burglary of a habitation that was ongoing.
Now, when you arrived at that location, did you come into contact with any suspects?
I did. We came in contact with the victim. I don't recall her name at this time, and she was in the middle of the road talking with Deputy Turner.
Okay. And did she point you in the direction of where the suspects were?
Correct. They ran inside the residence of space 15.
And were the suspects identified as Stephen Whitaker and Brandon Oakley?
That's correct.
And did you have an interaction with them where they were handcuffed?
Yes, we had made contact. Sergeant Rice had made contact with them at the front door of space 15 while I was looking in the back, making sure nobody ran out through the back, and they were detained from that after they were called out of that residence.
And while you were making contact, or while they were exiting the residence and being detained, did you view anything inside the residence?
Yeah, so I went up to the threshold of the door and I saw a marijuana pipe, a bubbler, if you will. It's just another form of marijuana, or not marijuana pipe, methamphetamine pipe.
Okay. And what are kind of the distinctions based on your training and experience to distinguish that methamphetamine pipe from a marijuana pipe?
Methamphetamine pipes typically aren't mass produced commercially in states where marijuana is legalized. They're usually homemade. They're usually crudely made. You can use the smoking mechanism which they use superheats the glass and chars it really distinctly. So wherever they put the drugs in, it's usually burned with a residue around the stem in the compartment where they hold the meth.
Okay. And based on your experience and your description of what a methamphetamine pipe looks like, was that what you saw when you viewed inside the trailer?
That's correct.
Now, in regards to the trailer or that investigation, what did you do to further that investigation?
We called out the remainder of the residents of the who were inside, which was William Newman. He was the only one left inside. And then we entered the residence to just make sure there was nobody else in it. And then we left. We were under the impression that we were going to go ahead and ask for a search warrant at that time.
Okay.
So we just secured the residence.
And in regards to securing the residence, did you also indicate whether or not there was a female present with a child?
I don't recall at this time. Yeah,
Okay.
she had. I was in the back whenever this happened, but yeah, a white female did come outside with a boy whenever that happened.
Okay, and was he identified as Zyler O'Brien?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you see the boy? Not necessarily leave the residence, but did you see him that night?
That's correct. I did.
And in regards to the residence, did you enter the residence after clearing it?
I think we cleared the residence and I'm sorry. Yeah, we were looking for anybody else inside the residence, and after we cleared it, we left, and that was
Okay,
all we had to do with it. The residence.
Can you describe the state that the residence was in when you cleared it?
So it was half the residence didn't have power. I only recall like one room, the master bedroom having electricity running to it, and inside the master bedroom was littered with clothes. There were different kinds of fixed blade and folding knives mounted with screws along the walls. The electrical breaker was inside of the closet and it looked like it had been opened and was exposed to clothes that were simply on hangers that could be touching at any point. Food wrappers everywhere. It had been evident that there had been animals living inside of the residence, and it looked like there was animal feces both inside the master bedroom and in the common living area. The kitchen of the residence didn't have, the dishes were piled up in the sink and on the counter. They had not been washed. There was still rotting food in the trash can and on the plates. It was all covered in a layer of dust, so nobody had been in there for quite some time. There was holes in the floorboards in some places. I don't recall the weather, but there definitely wasn't any AC or heating or air in there. It was all stale air. So that's all I recall about it right now.
Okay. Was there also other signs of drug paraphernalia around the house as well?
Yeah, there was a sack full of loose marijuana and some marijuana pipes in the living room and as well in the bedroom, and we took photographs of those.
And at the current description of the residence, would that have been safe for a child, Zyler or age?
In my professional opinion, no.
And was he a toddler size child?
Yeah, a toddler or maybe still an infant, very small.
Were there any individuals arrested that night?
If they were, Deputy Turner would have been the one that arrested him. I had arrested nobody that night.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Just briefly, Your Honor. You were there in connection with an allegation of an ongoing burglary?
Yes, sir.
Did you say?
Yes.
Okay, and did you actually engage in any kind of conversation with the little boy or the adult female that was with the little boy?
I think I asked them if they were okay if they wanted to sit inside of a car because there was the female had elected to sit on the grass and she was getting eaten up by mosquitoes. But that's really about it. We tried to find a solution for some bug spray or something like that, but I never talked to them.
Did you identify her?
No.
Okay, and made no effort to determine whether she actually lived there or how long she'd been there, or what the circumstances were of her and the child being there?
No, that would have been Deputy Turner. It was his call for service. I was just a supporting officer.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Archer.
Was Devin O'Brien present that night?
I don't recall, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, if there's nothing further, can Corporal Grant be dismissed?
Judge, I did have a follow-up.
Okay.
Officer Grant, could you review your report and see whether or not you did identify the female individual who had the child?
Report on a list that she was identified as Debbie Boyer and then identified as Zyler O'Brien. I don't know if that was me that identified her or if it was another officer. I just documented in that report that she was identified.
Okay, and she was identified as Debbie Boyer.
Correct.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
Okay. All right, then, if no one else has other questions, then Corporal Grant, I'll dismiss you so you can go about your afternoon's business. Thank you for your testimony and thank you for your service.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Can you let Ms. Sessions back in? I think she dropped off.
Oh, sure, yeah, I see.
And then I would call Aaron Strobel.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Officer Strobel, how are you currently employed?
With the Randall County Sheriff's Office.
And are you a certified police officer? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And how long have you been a police officer for the Randall County Sheriff's Office?
I've been with the Sheriff's Office since 2013. I've been a peace officer since 2018.
And before then, did you work in the jail?
Yes.
And as part of your employment, do you conduct traffic offenses? Stop.
Yes.
Now, on July 15th of 2023, were you working in the capacity of a law enforcement officer?
Yes.
And at approximately 6:15 p.m., did you pass a vehicle that was, I guess, that you noticed something about the vehicle?
Yes, I was conducted a traffic stop on a Buick LeSabre at near 58th and Osage.
And what was the reason for the stop?
The registration was expired by a year, I think.
And when you made the stop, who did you make contact with first?
Brandon Oakley was the driver, and his girlfriend, Debbie Boyer, was the passenger.
And during the course of that investigation, did you ask to search the vehicle?
Yes.
And was a search conducted on the vehicle?
Yes.
And was anything illegal found inside the vehicle?
Yes. Behind the stereo, there was 2 plastic baggies with a white substance inside.
And based on your training and experience, did you identify what you believed the substance to be?
Through my training, it looked to be like methamphetamine.
Now, in regards to the stop, was there anyone in the vehicle besides those 2 individuals?
No.
And was anyone arrested at that time?
Yes, they both were arrested for the possession.
All right, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Taylor?
No questions.
Ms. Archer?
No question.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right. If there's nothing further, can Officer Strobel be excused?
Please, Judge.
Okay. All right, Officer Strobel, thank you for your testimony. I'll release you so you can go about your business, and thank you for your service.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Judge, I will be calling Mr. Van Vickle if you want to let him
Okay.
in. No, I'm
All
muted. Mr. Van Vickle, how are you currently employed?
Special investigator with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
Okay, and what does a special investigator do?
Special investigators, we are not defined as typical caseworkers. We, among other things, help regular workers locate families they've lost track of, been unable to locate. We look for missing children who's missing from foster care. We investigate child death. We are assigned school investigations, cases where police officers are alleged to have placed their child at abuse or neglect, these kind of things.
Okay, and were you involved with a case investigating the welfare of a Zion?
Yes, ma'am. I was given the affidavit. It brought back some memories, yes.
Okay, and was the investigation started approximately July of 2023?
Yes.
And did you become involved in early August?
Yes. I believe
And
so.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
And were you assigned to the case or asked to help the case because they were having trouble locating the child in the case?
Yes, ma'am.
And on August 7th of 2023, did you go to a trailer park to investigate the location of the child?
Yes, I did.
And do you happen to know the address of that location?
It looks like it was 15.
Okay. And when you went to that trailer, were you met by any individuals?
The primary caseworker, Evans, was there with me. We drove to the trailer and we contacted, his name is Brandon. I can't think of his last name right now. Oakley, Brandon Oakley.
Okay. And from your understanding, was he the grandfather to the child?
Yes.
And were you trying to locate the child at that residence?
Yes.
And were you able on that day to locate the child?
No.
Now, in regards to the case, did you continue to search for the child?
We continued, yes.
And on the next day, August 8th of 2023, did you attempt to go to that same location again?
I believe it was the next day, yes.
And were you able to locate the child at that time?
I'd have to review the affidavit, but we did finally locate him at that address. I couldn't tell you what date it was.
Okay, and I'm sorry if per the report, if it was August 10th of 2023 that you finally located the child at the residence, does that sound about right?
It sounds about right.
Okay, and were you able to locate the child in that trailer 15?
Yes, with the assistance of the Randall County Sheriff's Office.
And was the child in the possession or was the mother with the child at that point?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Was the child instead residing with the maternal grandparents?
Yes.
And based on the situation of the child, was the child taken to be interviewed and observed?
The regular worker, Miss Evans, secured the child. I believe the child was taken for medical assessment. I'm not sure if he was interviewed or not.
And after that point in time, did you have any additional contact or access to this case?
No.
All right, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Mr. Taylor.
So I understand you did not have any contact with the child's mother. Is that what you just said?
I have not personally, no.
Thank you, sir. That's what.
Ms. Archer?
Yes, and did you have any contact with Devin O'Brien in your
Yes,
investigation?
I recall going out to the Randall County Jail, I believe it was. I couldn't tell you which jail it was now. I did go to one of the jails and I contacted Mr. O'Brien.
Was that the end of your contact with him, or have you had any recent contact with him?
That was only one contact that I can recall, was that one meeting with him.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Ringer?
No questions.
Anything further?
Yes, just a follow-up. Mr. Van Vickle, when you met with Mr. O'Brien, did he talk to you about where the child could possibly be residing?
Yes.
And what did he state?
He believed that this child would be with his mother at the mother's parents' residence at that trailer park.
Okay, and that is indeed where you did find the child, is that correct?
Subsequently, yes.
And in regards to Mr. O'Brien, did he make any comments about the situation the child was living in?
I recall him saying that he had a concern of illegal drug use going on around the child, but he didn't think that back up a little bit, that he had no specific concern that drugs were being used around the son, but that the persons having him would be using illegal drugs, if I remember right.
Okay, so he was potentially concerned with illegal drugs being used in the location the child was at.
Right.
Okay, nothing further, Judge.
Anyone else?
Just one follow-up. So what was your purpose in going to the jail, just to be clear?
To locate the biological father, Mr. O'Brien.
Okay. And did you get everything? Did he answer your questions? Everything
Yes,
you asked?
ma'am. I believe so. There would have been a follow-up with him if I needed anything else. I believe everything was answered that one visit.
And no further questions.
Anyone else? All right, can Mr. Van Vickle be excused?
I have no objection.
Okay.
No objection.
Mr. Van Vickle, I'll release you so you can go about your afternoon's business. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you, Judge.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
All right. Next witness.
I would call Melody Zuniga.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Zuniga, how are you currently employed?
I'm a supervisor with the Department of Family and Protective Services.
And in July of 2023, were you in that same position?
I was.
And did you supervise the case involving the child, Zyler?
I did.
And who is the assigned caseworker?
Malia Evans.
Now, when Ms. Evans was assigned to the case, what is your current procedure for how investigations proceed?
So once she is assigned the investigation, they do some basic steps, reviewing some history, running background checks, just trying to gather as much background information as possible. And then the next step would be is to go out in the field and make contact with the child and try to assess the safety.
And as part of that investigation and her position as being one of your supervisors, one of the people you supervise, do you keep in regular updates with her about the status of the case?
Yes.
And to your understanding, did Ms. Evans have difficulty locating the child and the parents?
Yes.
And specifically the mother?
Yes.
Now, did we have a potential location of where we thought the child could be?
Yes, we did.
And based on that information, was it requested that a special investigator be assigned?
Yes.
And during the course of the case, since y'all were having difficulty locating the child, to avoid a removal right off, did you ask the court for an order to aid in this case?
We did.
And specifically, what is an order to aid?
An order to aid helps us to be able to gain access to the child or home, medical examinations, things that we can get to in effort to prevent a removal, to get the information that we need to assess the safety of a child.
Okay. And so is that an investigative tool that you use to gather more information on whether or not to conclude if a child's in harm of abuse or neglect?
It is.
And for this case, with an order to aid granted?
Yes, it was.
And specifically, what was the order to aid in wanting to investigate?
The condition of the home, a medical examination of the child. There was some concerns about Zyler's physical appearance. We knew that there had been reports that Zyler was not verbal. So we knew that there was a strong possibility we wouldn't be able to interview him. gave us access to the child and access to transport him for a medical exam.
And was a medical exam completed on the child?
It was.
And was there concerns for the welfare of the child?
There was.
And at that point in time, was it requested that a drug screen be done on the child?
There was.
And were there also, was that expressed desire for the child to be drug screened, was that spoken with the mother?
Yes.
And was she finally able to communicate with the mother after the child was removed to the doctor's appointment?
Yes, I was actually the one who made contact with her.
Okay. And what did she state to you, or what did you state to her involving regarding the investigation?
We were able to express the concerns that we received regarding the report. She had denied living in the exact trailer where the paraphernalia was found during law enforcement's involvement. She had claimed that she had just dropped her child off there for about roughly 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. Even though the child was found there again when we executed the order to aid. She had agreed to sign a safety plan stating that she would not return the child to that trailer park in that trailer, that she was going to stay in a motel being supervised by the maternal uncle, that she herself and the child would go drug test the next day as recommended by that physical exam the child had. And that's how that meeting left, because the facility was not open when we finished the examination that day the order to aid was executed.
Okay. And what day did you speak with her?
That was on the 10th of August.
And after the 10th of August, before the removal of the child, did the mother drug screen or take the child to drug screen?
She did not.
And did you continue to have concerns with the child being located in the grandparents' home?
Yes, we did.
And based on that, did you also have concerns with Miss Oakley following the safety plan of being supervised by her brother?
Yes, we did.
Did you find out information that she was indeed not being supervised by her brother?
Yes, we did.
And due to all of those, the incidences where she did not follow up on the medical care of the child, she did not follow up to indicate whether or not she was free of drug use around the child, was the child removed from the mother and father?
Yes, he was.
And where was the child located upon removal?
He was brought to the paternal aunt's home where he ended up being placed at.
And was there actually a writ that had to be done by the court ordering the child to be given to the department?
We were actually in process of doing that when we were working with the paternal aunt who was working with Miss Oakley, and she agreed. She had another relative bring the child to her.
Okay. So Miss Oakley never actually complied and in fact gave the child to another relative who then gave him to you.
Yes.
And did Miss Oakley actually drug screen after the removal of the child?
She did. She didn't drug screen until August 24th, but she refused the urine and she did complete the hair.
And Judge, I'd offer Petitioner Exhibit 1. It is the drug screen from August 24th of 2023. It was filed with the business records affidavit on August 30th of 2023.
All right, objections? All right, then Petitioner's 1's admitted.
And Ms. Zuniga, what were the results for that hair follicle screen?
She was positive for methamphetamines.
And did you feel like the department exhausted all efforts to avoid removal of the child?
Yes, we did.
And did you do so by having the order to aid, also creating a safety plan and attempting to help locate the child?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Taylor? You're muted.
No question, John.
All right, Mr. Archer?
No question.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right, then, if there's no follow-ups, can Ms. Zuniga be released?
I have no objection, Judge.
Okay. All right, Ms. Zuniga, I'll release you so you can go back to your afternoon's business. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
And Judge, I would call Rachel Peebles.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Peebles, how are you currently employed?
I work for A World for Children.
And previously to working for A World for Children, did you work for St. Francis Ministries?
Yes.
And did you work as a permanency specialist for St. Francis?
Yes, I did.
And were you assigned to a case involving Xylem?
Yes.
And how long were you the worker in the case?
It was the first case I got, so it was probably about 10 months, maybe.
Okay. Did you get the case right after the adversary hearing?
Yes.
Okay, so about September of 2023?
Yes.
And did you have the case until approximately a month ago?
Yes.
Now, in regards to the case, as the caseworker, did you complete a service plan for both parents?
I did, yes.
And was the service plan attempt to mitigate the reasons for removal?
Yes.
And in regards to the removal, was it your understanding that the mother had some drug issues?
Yes.
And also that the father was currently incarcerated for an assaultive offense?
Yes.
And so based on that, did the services for the mother center around parenting to better enable her to parent the child as well as drug treatment?
Yes.
And in regards to the father, did it center around him doing services to help alleviate issues with assaultive behavior like the Batter's Intervention and Prevention Program?
Yes.
Now, in regards to the case, were you able to go over the service plans with the parents?
I did, yes.
And did they seem to understand what was being requested of them by the department?
Yes, they did.
And in regards to Mr. O'Brien, was he incarcerated? When was he released from incarceration? Approximately.
February, maybe.
Okay, so about February of 2024?
Yes, I know he was in there for probably 6 months that I went to go see him.
Okay, so if he was arrested mid-July, so January, February would be about 6 months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, after he was released from incarceration, did he notify you?
No.
And had you met with Mr. O'Brien in the Potter County Jail?
Yes.
And did you go, is that where you went over his service plan with him?
Yes, I did.
And did you tell him on one or multiple occasions to contact you after he was released?
Multiple.
And through those discussions, did you indicate that once he was released, you could help him start working his services in his plan?
Yes, I did.
And did you instruct him it was very important for him to contact you? Otherwise, we would be unable to help him reunify with his child.
Yes.
And what did he indicate to you?
The multiple times I went to go see him, he acted like he wanted to work services when he got out. But there was never any follow through with that.
Okay. And so he seemed to understand that what was needed of him was to contact you upon his release.
Yes.
Now, in regards to, and how were you informed that he was released from incarceration?
I attempted to go see him and they told me that he was released at Potter.
Okay. So you never got confirmation from him, but you got confirmation obviously from the facility.
Correct.
Now, in regards to Mr. O'Brien, did he work any of the services ordered in his service plan?
No.
And in fact, he didn't even maintain contact with the department after he was released from incarceration. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did he ever set up visitation or call or inquire about the welfare of the child?
No.
Did he ever visit with the child during the course of the case?
No.
And during the course of the case, the child has been in the care at least for 9 months with the department. Is that correct?
Yes.
And has he been able to demonstrate that he can provide a safe environment for the child?
No.
And would you consider the service plan a reasonable attempt to reunify the child with the father?
Yes.
And had he worked the services and made the necessary behavioral changes, reunification could have been possible.
Right.
Now, do you, in regards to the mother, Miss Oakley, you created a service plan for her too, is that correct?
Yes.
And in regards to the service plan, one of the, I guess, main services or simplest, I suppose, is to maintain communication with the department. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did Miss Oakley maintain communication with you?
It was very sporadic. Some months she was better than other months.
Okay. Did she indicate a reason for her sporadic communication?
No, there was never a reason.
From your understanding, was she able to locate and maintain stable housing?
No.
When was the last time you communicated with Miss Oakley?
The last time I saw her, I went to the hotel that she was living at, and then we probably exchanged some text after that. I was trying to go see her on the last month I was employed, and she would not give me her whereabouts.
Okay, so while you may have had some communication, when was the last time you were able to physically see her in person?
I think it was May.
Okay, so May of 2024?
I think.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not positive on that. Sorry.
That's okay. In regards to your employment, did you make detailed notes about your interactions with Miss Oakley?
I did.
And if notes indicate that you did talk to her in April, would that help refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you ask her to drug screen for you in May of 2024?
Yes.
And did she comply?
I don't think she did.
Okay. And again, if there are notes indicating that she did comply with the May 14th of 2024 report, you would have nothing to disagree with?
Correct.
Okay. And Judge, we would like to offer Petitioner Exhibits 2. It is the drug screen for Miss Oakley on May 14th of 2024. It's the hair follicle drug screen. Business records was filed May 23rd of 2024.
All right, objections?
No objection.
Okay, petitioners 2 is admitted.
And did Miss Oakley ever talk to you about her current drug use?
She did more at the beginning of the case.
Okay. And what did she say to you about her drug use?
She admitted to using at the beginning, but wasn't honest throughout the case on her drug use.
Okay. And what did she admit to using?
Meth.
Now, as far as her services, from what you recall, did she complete any of her services?
I don't believe she completed any.
All right. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, Mr. Taylor?
I have no questions of this witness, please.
All right, Ms. Archer?
Ms. Peoples, what attempts did you make to locate Devin O'Brien after he got out of jail?
The first thing I did was message him on Facebook, as he did not respond to that. And then I ran a finders on him and was able to go to, I think it was his father's house, and asked his stepmom if she knew where he was at. And then I went to one of the addresses listed for, I believe it was his mother's house. I attempted to go to that one 3 times, and there was no answer. Yes.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right. Ms. Peoples, did Miss Oakley regularly visit the child?
No, we had to stop visits multiple times. I think we stopped them twice because of not showing up a lot of times, missing the visits. So,
right. Was the service plan created for Miss Oakley? Was that a reasonable effort on the part of the department to return the child to Miss Oakley?
yes.
So would you say that she's demonstrated an inability to provide the child with a safe environment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else have further questions?
Just one, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ms. Oakley's most recent visitation was stopped by court order, was it not, until she could provide a clean drug test?
I believe it was court ordered, yes.
Okay, and she never provided that, is that correct?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions for Ms. Peoples? All right, then, can she be excused?
I have no objection.
No objection.
Okay, Ms. Peoples, thank you for your testimony. I'll release you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. I'd offer Petitioner Exhibit 3. It is a certified copy of the status hearing order with attached service plans.
All right, objections?
No objection.
Okay, petitioners 3 is admitted.
And I would like to offer Petitioner Exhibit 4. It's a certified copy of an indictment 33830-C against Selena Oakley for burglary of a habitation.
All right, objections?
No objection.
Okay, Petitioner 4 is admitted.
And finally, I would offer Petitioner Exhibit 5. It is a police report to Randall County Sheriff's Office Report 24-00000561.
Objections?
I do object to that, Your Honor. It's just a report that's full of hearsay and does not constitute any evidence of guilt. And I'd object to it, grounds of hearsay.
Okay.
And Judge, I would offer it under, do believe it complies with Texas Rules of Evidence 8038 as a public record. And unless there is a show of that it's not authentic, I do believe that it should be allowed to be admissible.
Okay, that objection will be overruled. Petitioners 5, if there's no other objections, will be admitted. Okay.
Thank you, Judge. And I call Tiffany Brown.
Okay.
And where is Zyler currently placed?
He's currently placed with his maternal uncle and aunt here in Amarillo, Texas.
And when was he placed with the maternal uncle and aunt?
He's been there for about 9 months.
Okay. And if his placement was about the same day as his removal, does that seem accurate to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And how is he doing in that placement?
He's doing really good. He receives therapy twice a week, occupational and speech. He's still delayed, but making progress.
Now, in regards to his delay, it was testified previously that he could not speak when he was removed. Is he now able to communicate better?
He is communicating better.
And do you believe that he is getting all of the educational, emotional, psychological, and medical needs met in that current placement?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And is there, if the parents' rights are terminated, is that placement wanting to be a long-term placement for Zyler?
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, did they sign to be permanent managing conservators of the child if that is possible?
Ma'am.
And they're willing to care for him until he is 18?
Yes, ma'am.
And in regards to his medical needs, is he on any current medication?
No, ma'am.
And in regards to school, he's still a little bit young. Is that correct?
He will be registering for preschool in the fall.
And do you believe that the parent or that the placement is more than willing and able to take care of all of his needs?
Yes.
And in regards to the mother, have you had contact with Selena Oakley?
Only through text messages.
And has she indicated with you that she has completed any of her services?
No, ma'am.
And has she drug screened for the department since May? I'm sorry, did you hear my question? Oh, okay. Okay, so did she drug screen in June?
No, ma'am.
And has she drug screened in July?
No, ma'am.
And she did complete an OSAR evaluation, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But she did not complete the recommended treatment of Padre, is that fair?
Yes.
And in regards to her drug screen, she was positive for methamphetamine in May of 2024, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so would that be a continuing concern for the danger of Zyler if he is placed in the home with the mother?
Yes, ma'am.
Additionally, has she given any indication that she has stable housing or employment?
She has not.
And have you been able to observe any type of residence or hotel or any place that she is residing?
No, ma'am.
And so you're not even able to assess whether or not that would be a safe environment for the child?
Correct.
Now, in regards to her visitation, it was previously testified it was stopped in May of 2024 by the court order, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she had not been consistently attending previously to that as well, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, in regards to Mr. O'Brien, what efforts have you made since becoming the caseworker to locate Mr. O'Brien?
I have went to previous addresses that are in our system, as well as the vacant lot that's across from St. Francis, and I have not been able to locate him.
And that vacant lot, was that the lot that was indicated previously in July of 2023 where he resided?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you believe you've exhausted all efforts to be able to locate Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in regards to the excuse me, the child, do you believe it would be in Zyler's best interest that the mother's rights be terminated?
Yes, ma'am.
And why do you believe that?
I have not been able to view her home to see if it's safe and stable. No knowledge of her current drug use.
Do you believe that both of those things pose a danger to the child now and in the future?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you believe that the mother can provide for the physical or emotional needs of the child now and in the future?
No, ma'am.
And do you believe that the service plan and services in it would have allowed Miss Oakley to potentially reunify with her child had she taken advantage of those?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it a concern for the department, having almost been a year into the case, that we are continuing to keep getting positive drug screens?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, in regards to Mr. O'Brien, do you believe it's in the child's best interest that his rights be terminated?
Yes, ma'am.
And why do you believe that?
Not having any contact with him, not knowing his living arrangements or his sobriety or current drug use as well.
Is it a concern for the department that he has not made contact with the department since being released from incarceration?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it also a concern, obviously, as you mentioned, being unable to confirm where he's living, where if he has employment, if he's free from any drug use, which could all pose a threat to the child?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you believe it would be in the child's best interest for the department to be named permanent managing conservator and his placement to continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, Ms. Brown, I assume you took over the case when Ms. Peoples ceased becoming the caseworker on the case. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And approximately what was that date that you took over this case?
June 29th, 24.
And what specific contact have you had with Ms. Oakley?
We had texts about her drug screening in June, as well as in July.
Okay,
Her and I have exchanged text messages regarding drug screens.
Okay, those were text messages?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you had any actual telephone contact with her?
No, when I dial her number, she doesn't answer. She does text back that she's had some problems with her phone not working.
And you've had no in-person contact with her?
No, sir. I did go with Ms. Peoples in June to make her attempts to see Selena at the addresses that we had for her there.
You're muted, Mr. Taylor.
Sorry, I didn't realize I got muted. Y'all not pass witness.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Archer.
Ms. Brown, as far as you know, has Devin O'Brien reached out to any of his family members?
Not as far as I know, no.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right. Anything further for Ms. Brown?
No, Your Honor, we rest.
All right, thank you. Mr. Taylor, do you have any witnesses?
No, Your Honor. I think for the purpose of self-interest, let me state on the record that I did forward to Ms. Oakley the link for today's hearing. I did have regular contact with her in person and by phone up until the day that I sent her a copy of the most recent court report for this final hearing and scheduled with her a specific appointment to discuss it after she had reviewed it. She did not make that telephone appointment for that discussion and has not contacted me since or responded to my efforts to reach out to her. And her telephone number gives me a recording saying it's not in service at this point. So I feel like I've made every effort I can to ensure that she was at the hearing and prepared. And I have nothing further to present.
Okay, all right, thank you. Ms. Archer, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Judge. I have the same scenario. I did send a certified letter to the last known address. I've reached out to family members. I also tried calling Mr. O'Brien's prior attorney to see if he might have a different number or contact, and I've had no luck at all.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, then, Mr. Ingram, if you have no witnesses, recommendations?
Yes, sir. I believe it to be in the child's best interest that both the mother's and father's parental rights be terminated, that the department be named as permanent managing conservator, and the placement to remain as is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, give me just a minute. I've got to run from the courtroom to my office, and I'll be right back. All right, then, based on the evidence I've heard today, as well as the exhibits that have been admitted, I do find that it's in the best interest of the child that the parental rights of his mother, Selena Oakley, be terminated. I'll terminate those rights today based on Texas Family Code, section 161.001, subsections B, 1D, E, N as in Nancy, and O. I further find that it's in the best interest the parental rights of his father, Devin O'Brien, be terminated. I'll terminate those rights today based on Texas Family Code, section 161.001, subsections B, 1N, and O. I'll name the department permanent managing conservator. I'll continue Zyler's current placement. We'll have our first review hearing on October 14th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearings, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of October 14th to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. So.